Hi students and welcome to another webinar. This is the third edition for customer experience. This is our resource support workshop number 3 of 4. In this session, we'll take you through the first 2 learning activities on the manage sales and service delivery subject, which is the second part of our unit for customer experience. As mentioned, this is actually a double unit, guys. You've got 2 subjects rolled into one. We are only running 4 resource work support shops for all of the both units as opposed to 3 as we normally would do for each subject, and we'll have 1 assessment support workshop at the end of this. So this is the third of 4 resource support sessions for this double unit, and as mentioned, we'll take you through these 2 learning activities. The first one is establish and respond to customer requirements. The second one here is monitor, maintain and improve sales and service delivery. Joining me in the session today is the lovely Alyssa Katana. Welcome, Alyssa.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you very much for having me. I think this is the third week in a row that we've kind of explored the idea of the customer experience. So thanks for having me back. Looking forward to the session.
Thanks for coming back, and I think it's good to have you because we have actually together, as you mentioned, we've gone through the first couple together. They've been really good sessions. I think the conversation's been really helpful and useful for students. We started off talking in the first session about service vision, I guess the importance of creating a vision for the organisation, and but a service vision particularly. So not just a vision for the business, but a vision for how you may want to interact with your customers. We talked about the importance of customers, how they fit in with the business, and the need to create what we call a customer-centric business. The benefits of customer centricity and those sorts of things. And then we started talking about customer touch points. And it was a really good session in that first one. We talked about how Apple, the organization, has effectively mastered its touch points. And a touch point is any time that a consumer or a customer interacts with our brand or product. So as an example, the packaging that Apple use in their product, they understand that that's actually one of their touch points with their customers, because when the customer takes the product home and opens the packaging, they're actually experiencing something at that time. And so anytime that customer experiences something with their brand, that's what they're talking about with touch points. So we talked a little bit about that in that first session. What did we talk about last week? I think last week we talked a little bit about consumer motivations, needs, wants. What are the differences between rational needs and wants, which are more those emotional sort of needs. We talked about features and benefits in advertising, how advertisers like to sell on benefits and talking about features. We talked a little bit about the consumer purchase process, so how what a customer might go through when they're going through that process of about to purchase something. And we talked about mechanisms and ways to understand your own product, the journey the customer might go on with your product, how to identify some of these needs. Alyssa, you were talking a little bit about social media and how that impacts what we call service recovery programs. So the ability for organizations to respond to feedback and complaints and things like that, and how important that is in this modern age. And we also talked about the opportunity that presents organizations as well. That was what we talked about last week, the service recovery paradox, which is you have an opportunity to wow a customer after they complain and leave them in a position where they actually value the organization to a higher amount than they did before there was actually an issue. So that's what we call the service recovery paradox. And we talked a little bit about leadership traits that actually we left that for students to have a bit of a look at and do some research themselves. That's where we're up to today. So not a big session today. Just we do have those 2 learning activities, but you'll notice that there's 2 questions on each. So the first one, establish and respond to customer requirements, 2 questions, 2 questions in the next set. So I think we might just jump straight into these questions, unless, Alyssa, if there's anything else you'd like to add to the first couple of sessions that we've run, or anything that you think might be worthy of mentioning before we get started.
No, I mean, I think, I think the last couple of sessions have been really interesting, and I think they've really, we've explored some topics and some ideas and some concepts that I think hopefully will have helped the students in terms of answering, that first lot of questions that we had through. So yeah, no, I say let's kick on and let's see what else we can explore.
Okay, great. So let's have a look at the first question in this set. Question 1, it says, in your own words, describe the service profit chain model, and then give some examples of why this model enables organization to to deliver value to customers. So again, this is just in reference to having an organization which is customer centric. We've talked about different things. This is actually a mechanism or a method of actually delivering on that promise. Um, so it's a model. It's a theory of how you can go about doing it. So there are some reading materials that students might want to jump in and have a look. If you go to your learning materials, you'll see there's a page, sales and service profit chain. I think it's like the second or third page. There's a whole heap of
Yep.
information here, Alyssa, for students to read.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah.
More than happy to go through some of these items. In fact, there's an image as well that is connected that tries to explain this model. Alyssa, I'll be really honest with you. This image confuses me a lot.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think that there is definitely a much more simplistic way of, I guess, of putting this kind of concept.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, we generally like to
And
start
it
off.
doesn't have to be, yeah,
I was going to say we generally like to start off with students with a nice sort of definition. Um,
sure.
I actually haven't got anything prepared for this one. Have you got anything, or how would you sort of define this from the get-go, or should I maybe just launch into what I actually do have is a nice,
Sure.
yeah. So go for it.
I mean, from what from this kind of concept that you're obviously displaying here, my understanding of it really is that I guess service and that service quality begins internally in the organisation. So, you know, we talk about a chain and we talk about the service cycle, but I guess essentially, and just, you know, I don't want to take away the depth of it, but just, I guess, looking at this particular type of concept here, what we're looking at is we're looking at service really starting in the heart of the organisation, and the heart of any organisation will always be your employees. You know, the belief system is that you're delivering service, and you know, if you deliver service to your employees are key in front of the customer, in front of the guest. And if you're not looking after them, and if you're not providing them with satisfaction, and if you're not treating them just the way you would treat a customer, then it's going to be very difficult for you to be able to get that external service quality that this chain looks at. So from my understanding of something like this, you know, your employees essentially are your customers, so you need to be loyal to them. You need to make sure that they are being looked after, that they're satisfied, that you know, they've got the training that they need to be able to produce and understand the service value of your organisation, which then they can share with your customers. So essentially, it's kind of almost creating. It all kind of goes back. I mean, that's my general, and I don't want to take
Yeah.
away the depth of the theory, but that's my general understanding of that kind of chain.
You're right on the money there. I mean, I'm actually showing this image to students because it's confusing me, and I've got a better image that I'm going to show right after this, which actually
Sure.
shows
Yep.
it a bit better. But
Yeah.
we call it the service profit chain. Now, if you think about a chain, like a bike chain, it's a series of links that are all connected.
Yep.
And, you know, you take one of those connector points out of the chain and the thing falls apart.
Yep.
What this is sort of saying is that there is a direct link between what comes out here, which is revenue, growth, and profitability. So for the business to be successful and make money, there are direct links between customers' loyalty, satisfaction, the value of the service, and then moving back further, those internal mechanisms that you're talking about. So how much somebody enjoys their workspace, how productive they might be, and how much service or the quality of that service that they're delivering internally has that direct
Mm.
impact and connection. And that's actually what it is. So the service profit chain establishes a relationship between, it's a model. It's designed as being a way of just demonstrating how that everything is effectively linked. So the relationships
Mm.
between profitability, customer loyalty, employee satisfaction, productivity. Um, so well, I'm going to open up the
Yes.
next image because I've got an article here from Harvard Business Review that I think that actually talks about this in a much more simplistic way. Not more, actually, so not more simplistic, I think just much more, well, it's just another way. So let's just, I think it might be good, Alyssa, if we present this to students. Students also have then the option of going through the materials and reading those materials that are there for you.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I mean, I think sometimes, yeah, as I said, I don't, you don't want to take away the theory of this wonderful service profit chain. But again, I think the image that you've got on the screen really can help students understand how it
Absolutely.
works, I guess, essentially.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just think of this as one long chain, and all of
Mm,
each link is related to the previous link. You can't remove one of the, you can't get to the next level without completing that stage, so to speak. So what it suggests is, and this is what we mentioned before, profit and growth are stimulated primarily by the chain before, customer loyalty. Loyalty is the direct result of customer satisfaction. Satisfaction is largely influenced by the value of services provided to the customer. So here we go, service value. And value is created by satisfied, loyal, and productive employees, which is right here. So
mm,
employee satisfaction in turn results primarily from high quality support services and policies, which is this first
mm,
chain right here. And so what we're sort of showing is each of the steps is very much affected by the previous step. You can't have
mm,
profitability and growth without having loyal customers. You can't have loyal customers without having customers that are satisfied. You can't have satisfied customers without having an excellent service, and you can't have excellent service without productive and happy and satisfied employees, which you can't have unless you have internal systems, policy, and support structures in place. So really,
mm.
when because otherwise, this could be a kind of quite a difficult thing for students to kind of master or understand, and I think this image just breaks it down into really what it's trying to say. Um,
Mm. Yeah.
so
Can I, maybe I'm thinking of an example in my head. Can I trial the example with you?
I would love you to. I've also, yeah, please go for it. Go for it. Yeah.
All right. So say, for example, I'm going to use a hospitality-based example here,
Mm,
and I'm going to use the example of room attendants, okay, in a hotel environment. All right.
great.
Now, for a perspective on room attendants, just so that you all know, in a hotel environments, room attendants are given a specific amount of time that they must complete a room. So they've got maybe anywhere in different hotels, anywhere from 15 minutes to 30 minutes to be able to clean a room in its entirety. Okay.
Yep.
Now, what we've found that the longer the room attendants have in that room to clean, okay, so say for example we give them 30 minutes to clean, so as part of our internal service quality we've each now given them 30 minutes to clean. It means they've got more time to clean, which means their satisfaction level is higher, okay, which means their productivity is better, which also, and as we follow this kind of scene, it means that their quality product they're delivering, they've got more time to spend cleaning the room, so they're not cutting corners or they're not missing out on cleaning specific areas. This then leads to an improved customer satisfaction because the customers love the cleanliness of the room, and in hotels that's why they're there. You know, they're there to
Absolutely.
have an experience in a five-star hotel. So what we found is that therefore that if they're happy with their room, okay, and the cleanliness of the room and the service they get, then they are likely to come back, okay,
Repeat
which what
customer.
that means for
Absolutely.
us is their customer loyalty increases, but what that means is every time we increase a room rate, it doesn't matter because they're still so loyal and they love our product so much because of the quality that the room attendants are delivering, but because of the time the room attendants have, that our revenue continues to grow. And so we can adjust rates without losing our customer. So on the opposition, what we found is the less time we give our room attendants, okay, so say for example we give our room attendants 15 minutes or 18 minutes to clean a room, there's a lot of pressure on them to be able to clean that room. Their satisfaction levels go down. They start cutting corners, which means that they don't clean all aspects of the room, which therefore leads to a lot of customer complaints, and our customers will then leave, which therefore contributes to a decrease in our revenue.
That's a fantastic example, a really good example of this. I mean, it's a really nice, simple example that I think everybody can completely understand and makes perfect
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. I was seeing that, and I was seeing the evolution of a room attendant when I saw that. So I've worked in hotels where there is very little time, and it is very, very compromising for our employees. And then I've seen hotels that have a lot of time, and I have to tell you, it really does reciprocate and really does affect our loyalty and our revenue. So yeah.
So this stuff works. It's clear that this sort of stuff works. Alyssa, I've sent you that article, the Harvard Business Review article. We can talk through. We can read through that article for
Yes.
students now, if you like. Or do we feel that we've given students enough to answer this first question? So, in your own words, describe the profit chain model. So, I guess that established relationship between each of those elements, between profitability and growth,
Mm,
and those internal service qualities and satisfaction levels and things like that. Um,
mm.
the last part of the question is give 3 examples of why this model enables organizations to deliver value to customers. So really what we're saying is explain
Yeah,
to us why do you think it works?
yeah, that's exactly right. No, and yeah, and if possible, if you are currently working in a workplace and you might be able to give us 3 workplace examples of where you actually see this or how you see this service profit chain in your organization as well. So yeah, I mean, it's just, yeah, just describing it in your own words, but then just giving us 3 examples, I guess, that you can kind of, yeah, why this actual chain works and how it works. I mean, that's what I would be looking for.
Sounds good. In that case, do we need to go into the nuts and bolts of the article? What I might do is I might just yeah, I think if
Maybe
students,
pop it up for students.
I was just about to
Yeah.
say that. Yeah, I was just about to say. So I might just put it up there for students if they want to read it. They're welcome to have a read of it because the picture itself actually is quite helpful for those that are visual and for myself, of course. But don't forget the materials they do cover it. So where is it? Was that it?
Where was that?
I think it was on no the third page.
Yeah.
Sales and service profit chain. This one. Yeah, that was the
Down
one.
there.
Okay, apologies. I
Yeah.
was on the right page. Okay, so yeah, and there's that image there. So this is the page for students to go to gather a bit more information about that chain. But yeah, I'll absolutely update or upload that article from Harvard Business Review so that students can also
Yeah.
check that one out if they would like. I guess what we're trying to
Mm.
sort of say here in the first conversation about having a service vision and creating a customer centricity, this is about building into, about understanding that connection between a truly satisfied customer or really profit and all of the things that happen before it and how they all relate.
Yeah.
What we're trying to achieve here is not just having happy customers and not just having satisfied customers. We are wanting to have incredibly satisfied customers. We want to create customers that are just blown away by the experience that they have with us. Um, because whilst a happy customer most likely will come back, somebody who's very, very, very satisfied and incredibly happy will most certainly come back. And I'm not sure if I'm a little bit early on this one, but there's some stuff in the materials there that talk about, I guess, the benefits of having a customer that's what we call a lifetime value or customer lifetime value. So a customer which is yours for life presents a lot of future economic benefits, but a lot of other benefits for the business in general as well. So that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to create repeat customer, and that's what you're talking about before, Alyssa, with your example. Given the fact that those workers had a little bit more time to clean the rooms. It created, so that was a change in process. It actually created happier
Mm.
staff, which created more productivity, which
Mm.
created a higher level of service, which created more
Mhm.
satisfied customers, which created that loyalty that we're talking about. And
Yep.
that loyalty creates
Yep.
profitability
Yeah.
and things like that. So that's where it all sort of sits. Um,
Mm. And it's interesting with that. Just, I mean, I guess going back to that lifetime loyalty, I think that a lot of organisations underestimate the power that customers have these days. Because if customers aren't satisfied, then they can just take their business elsewhere. I mean, there are just so many. From my perspective, there are so many hotels in Sydney that you don't look after the person that's lying, that's there, they'll easily go somewhere else and they don't have any qualms about it. I mean, this is the thing, is that we lose customers too often and we don't realise their value over an extended period of time. And I think that loyalty is essential, to the success of your business. Just keeping people is easy, because the customer now has a lot of power. They can take their business elsewhere. It's easy for them.
Are you familiar with Ken Blanchard? He's
Oh, that's,
It's a
yeah.
familiar name, no doubt. He wrote a book about situational leadership, I think, which is probably his most famous work. But he also wrote a book called I think Creating Raving Fans or something like that, or What is a Raving Fan?
Oh,
And
yeah.
and as Ken mentioned in his book, Raving Fans, a raving fan is a customer who is so devoted to your products or service that they wouldn't
Yep.
dream of taking their
Yep.
business elsewhere, and they'll even sing from the rooftops about how good you are. I.e., they'll tell all
Yep.
their friends, their family, they'll only speak glowingly of you. And honestly, that's some of the best review you can get is that peer-to-peer sort of review. Um,
Mm.
and
Oh, absolutely.
yeah, he talks about the
And you,
benefits. Yeah, go for it.
yeah, you think about that whole concept of a raving fan. I mean, you think about one person that as you mentioned, you don't just deliver great customer service to, but go above and beyond to deliver great customer service. I mean, that person can bring so much value to your business. Like you said, if you've got somebody shouting on the rooftops about how wonderful your organisation is, and encouraging people to experience it, they're constantly bringing more value into your business as well. It's like they're your marketing tool, they're your PR tool. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I think raving fan is a great concept. Yeah.
So Ken actually suggests for people to write down a list of their biggest fans. So if you're in your business, write down the names of people, customer names, and write down your best customers, and then write down what you've done for them lately, and then ask yourself, what have you done for them lately to maintain their status as being a raving fan? And what is effectively
Mm,
getting at here is all you need to do is decide what you can offer a customer, and then that just becomes ground zero, and then find a way to give 1% extra. And so what he's saying is you don't have to be 50% better or 100% better than your opposition. Just one little percent makes a difference between a satisfied customer and a raving fan. So the difference between what we call that, just, yep, I'm happy with this, and like, wow, I am completely and utterly devoted to this organization, is potentially only 1%, not a big deal. So what he's suggesting is find that 1%. So give the customers
mm,
what they're asking for, then give them 1% extra. It's a simple formula, is
mm.
basically what he's saying. So, um, yeah, interesting sort of
Absolutely.
stuff.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again,
And you never know who a customer is as well. I mean, this is the thing, is that somebody that comes in and buys a coffee from your organisation, or somebody that makes a phone call, you don't know who that person is, and you don't know how many people are in their network. So, you know, information like that can travel really quickly, and every customer is such a powerful value for you, So, yes.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
now I think the second question, let's have a look at that one. Think about your
Well,
current organizational business and identify activities or business processes that may impact your ability to deliver outstanding customer service. How can you manage these hurdles? So, okay, so this
yeah.
one, yeah. Do you want to grab this one?
Yeah, look, I'm happy. I think about your current organisation or business, and I guess if students aren't currently working in an organisation or business, perhaps they could look at some examples of businesses that they're familiar with. So identify areas or business processes that
Yep.
may impact your ability to deliver customer service. So I guess what you're looking at here is, what are some of the things within your business, okay, or some of the activities that could actually perhaps impact how you deliver your customer service. So one thing that kind of comes to mind in terms of business processes, I guess, and the ability to deliver outstanding customer service, I'm thinking more internally, and I think about perhaps things like resources. I mean, resources can have a big effect on your ability to deliver customer service, and by resources I could
Absolutely.
mean even like the human resource, and
You're,
which we've
you're
talked about. Yeah, yeah,
you're going back now to the service profit chain, which says,
yeah,
get this internal stuff right. So workplace design, job design, all of the tools, the resources that you're talking about for our staff, that's going to
yeah,
create happy staff. So, and
yeah.
that's exactly where you're talking about there. So that's great.
Mm.
I'm happy for students to use their own workplace as an example. If you aren't working at the moment, you can't use a workplace as an example for this. Um, would like you to consider a time where maybe you haven't had good customer service somewhere, and talk about what it was. I guess what the actual issue was there, maybe what a root cause of the issue. So if you had poor customer service, the person was rude, okay. Why do you think they were being rude? When we say why do you think they're being, were they trying to serve 100 customers at the one time? So did the organization
Mm.
give them enough human resources to do their job? Did they have
Yeah,
the tools to do their job? Was
yeah,
it obvious that there was a lacking a process or a system? Was there something obvious to you that could have been changed to make that experience that we've all experienced bad customer service. So students, if you're not employed, you can't use a current organization to identify a activity or practice. Or now think touch points. Again, coming back to touch points, every time there's a touch point, that's an opportunity to wow or disappoint a customer. So all you need to do is consider a touch point. So if that's the packaging of your product, talk about it. Um, so maybe the
yeah. That visual presentation. I mean, that aesthetic nature of your product. Does that actually impact your ability to deliver customer service?
Absolutely. And we know that post-purchase behavior has a dramatic impact on how an individual or customer feels about your product and service. So in the art and craft of trying to create these lifelong customers, we need to
Yeah,
understand that post-purchase scenario, i.e. what happens when they go home. So we have
yeah,
to consider that experience that they have with our product at home as part of our customer service touch point or experience. So again, um, feel free to use an example. So yeah, use an
yeah,
example of your own workplace. But if you can't do that, I'm happy for customers. I'm happy for students to use an example where they've experienced bad customer service, or just identify any business process in any business that they've witnessed and gone. And if you've ever had that thought, oh geez, they probably could do this a little bit better, or a way to fix this issue would be to have A, B, and C. Um, Yeah, Alyssa, sorry, I've sort of cut you off on that one.
no, no, yeah, no. I mean, I think that all of the things that we've talked about, even in the last, like in the last couple of weeks as well, I think we've definitely identified, some companies that really do deliver outstanding customer service. And, then as you said, I think everybody can relate to that moment where they haven't been looked after by an organisation. And, what was it about that you thought that made this not right? I mean, was it
Yeah,
a process? Do you think that they just didn't have the capabilities to be able to handle the customer service? Was there a gap in that resource? Were the employees looking like they were really stressed? Was the coffee machine broken? I mean, all of these types of things definitely do impact that customer service.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I'm happy. This
I
is a bit of a creative one for students. They can just sort of
Yeah,
use examples to sort of illustrate how to, improve customer service really. So
yeah, definitely. I know I don't usually talk about great customer service because but I actually dealt with NRMA the other day, and I'd had called up NRMA about an insurance-related matter, and I had absolutely no understanding of what I needed to do.
yeah,
And I have to say that right from the get-go, as soon as I called through, and once obviously I was put in a waiting in or in a queue when it came to waiting for my phone to be answered, but once my phone was answered, I was directed to the relevant department within minutes, and I was really over the phone greeted by somebody that was very relaxed, walked me through the process quite easily, guaranteed me a time on, when everything would be fixed, assured me that the process would be incredibly easy, and sure enough, she took care of every aspect of that request, and within the time frame that she had given. And for me, I was so shocked I was so shocked about how easy it became for me to be able to deal with this person, and also the guarantee of we can get this done in 10 minutes. It is not as stressful. It's not going to be stressful for you. I'm going to walk you right through the process, and it was absolutely confirmed. They obviously had such a commitment to their to their actual clients and to their actual people that I was going to give them 10 minutes, and within 10 minutes we were going to get everything sorted, and the customer was going to walk away happy. So I felt, I mean, that 10 minutes and that time limit really gave me the confidence, I guess. You know what I mean? So it was within 10 minutes, and for me that was kind of like, oh, okay, great.
Can
So I
I
think for
ask,
me that,
do you
yeah.
think that they did anything extra special for you, or do you think that they just
Oh,
delivered brilliant service?
look, I just think that, from my understanding, I think they had a very, very good process that they had all been trained really well on. I think that they simplified the information, so they only gave me
That's great.
information that I needed to know, and their customer service was really good. Obviously, they're an organisation that probably have lots of crazy questions, but there was no tone in this lady's voice. She
It
was
NRMA,
absolutely like
yeah.
I felt. Oh yeah, I felt really relaxed, like I felt really not stressed.
And
Um,
you should feel that way. And you know why? Because where we talked about this last week, actually, insurance,
yeah,
what are they actually selling? We talked about
that's right.
features versus benefits. What's the
Mm,
feature of an insurance? Well, it's a 1 year, it has an excess rate of it. I don't, what are the features of an
yeah,
insurance? Does anybody really care? People are not buying the features of the insurance. What are they actually buying? They're buying peace of mind. So
that's right.
if it's also about understanding your own product, and we mentioned this last week, if you're designing different processes and systems and trying to work out the best experience to provide customers, you've got to understand A, the journey they go through, but also B, what it is
Mm,
they seek from your product. And insurance, peace of mind is what people are buying. So if I'm calling
mm,
NRMA, I'm calling them because I'm seeking peace of mind. So
exactly.
what they would have done at NRMA if they were kind of clever, and no doubt this is exactly what they did. They identified that this is the reason why people are coming to them, and they
Mm,
tried to put themselves in the headspace of you, Alyssa, who were calling them, who was had some anxiety about something and needed some peace of mind. You were calling for some peace of mind is exactly what you were calling for.
yep.
And they designed their system so minimize the amount of language used, tell the customer right from the start that yep, we will walk you through everything. There's nothing to worry about. So all of those things, they're effectively selling you peace of mind from the second you engage with them. And
Yep.
so that's, I would say that is their customer service, which is obviously they're customer centric because their message, their things that they're doing are based around your needs and your wants, not around what they think they should sell you or how they should package it. They're basing their processes around you, which is the customer, which is the
Yeah.
important thing. But yeah,
Yeah,
so
very, I mean, yeah, as you said, very, very customer centric, like really understood and connected with me. And as soon as I spoke, they knew exactly, like they just knew exactly what I needed from them, which was really nice. So again, you said, having that touch point and just kind of having that empathy and understanding, I think is key there. So it was good, really great.
what though? It's actually good that you mentioned this for this question two. So we've asked students to find some, and I gave them the example of bad, you've had bad customer service. Think about a time where you had good customer service
Yeah.
and answer it from that perspective. So what could have NRMA done to give you the 1%? We talk about 1% creates raving fans. You're a satisfied fan now. You're actually
Yep.
probably close to a raving fan just the way that you're speaking, but that also might be related to your perception. Before calling them, you might have thought, what a pain in the, what it is to call these guys, and because your perception might have been quite low, you might have been pleasantly surprised. Having said that, you're
Yeah.
going to expect that other service providers offer the same level of service the next time you engage in insurance because that's your expectation now. So what can NRMA do? Use this exact same situation. How could NRMA have given you 1% more? How could they have
Yep.
converted you from a satisfied to a very, very, very satisfied customer? And you don't have to answer that question right now, but I'd love for students to think about that. So what we're
Mm.
actually really more what I would like to see if this question is how to convert somebody to a raving fan. So what's the 1% you can do? Yeah, if somebody doesn't greet you properly or they're rude to you, okay. If they're rude, we're not, we're not going to be hanging around too much longer. But what I'm interested in is how can you do that extra mile? We all know how to greet a customer. We all know how to say thank you and please. We all know how to try and offer good service, and we're human. We're not always perfect, and as we've mentioned before, we're not expecting people to be perfect, and it's okay to make a mistake every now and then. But we do want you to consider what it means to go that extra 1%. So I'd really love the students to answer it from that perspective. Um, yeah, do you have any thoughts on what I mean, you don't have to answer it now, but any ideas of what they could have done to give you that extra 1%? Or maybe they were already doing
Oh,
it.
look, I mean, yeah, look, I was just thinking about what they could have done to do that 1%, and I think the 1% for me was there was a moment there where I was supposed to contact, well, I'd said um, that I had an obligation to contact another insurance company with regards to the accident that I had been in, and they had said to me, no, you don't need to do anything else now. We will contact that insurance company on your behalf.
Wow.
You've done everything you need to do. And I think for me that was that 1% because I was very stressed about having the car accident essentially. They took away the stress, but then I didn't even have to deal with the other insurance company of the other driver. They had totally taken that off my hands and they were going to just deal with it from their end. So I didn't really have to do anything. And I think the 1% was them taking that pressure off my shoulders.
There you go. So
Yeah,
they have clearly understood the feeling, the anxiety, the stress, the
yeah,
journey that their customers are going through, and they have found a way to sell what it is that you're buying, which is, as we know, you're buying peace of mind with insurance, and they found a way to deliver peace of mind at each of those touch points. So that's clever. I thought the
yeah.
example was great. Um, that's really good. Let's go on to the next one. So, okay,
Well,
this question is asking why
cool,
is it
let's do it.
important that sales and service targets are linked to the overarching organizational goal? Um, Look, there's a couple of reasons here. I'll answer this from the first point, which I'm going to just say is in relation to human motivation, and then the second one is just the need to link, um, yeah, like I guess the link between organizational goals, sorry, strategic goals and operational goals. So maybe Alyssa, if you want to talk about strategic and operational goals, um, I'll just mention the first
Hmm,
point, I guess, with human motivation.
sure.
Uh,
Yep.
yeah, as human beings, we all like to feel like we're a part of something. We're a part of something a little bit bigger. It's also important to feel that your efforts make a difference as well. So when we're talking about sales and service targets, what we're saying is to the individual, you must sell A, B, and C amount of these. You must pick up the phone. You must, and we'll talk a little bit about KPIs in a second with the next question. But we need to allow them the understanding that what they are trying to achieve, so their sales and service targets, we need them to understand how that is linked to what the organization are trying to achieve as a whole. Because in terms of human motivation, for an individual to be motivated, they need to feel like their effort's making a difference. Uh, so if I feel like what I'm doing leads to a bigger, greater cause, then I'm likely to be motivated to continue. If I feel like what I'm doing is irrelevant for what the business are trying to achieve, yeah, my motivation to continue and my sense of involvement is actually dramatically diminished. Everybody experiences that day when you go home at the end of the day and feel like you've got nothing done. Um, and likewise, you go home on all those days where you do a lot of work and you go home and you feel really good about what you've done, having made a difference, having achieved, having solved a problem, having overcome an issue. You feel really good about yourself. You feel like you could do anything. You feel like it was a great day. And if you feel like those things that you were doing were leading to something greater, something bigger, i.e. the team's targets, the team's goals, or the company's, the organizational mission and goals, you're going to feel a lot better about that. So that's all I just wanted to talk about, just really quickly. Um, Elsa.
Yeah, and I think, obviously if you're talking about, you're essentially talking really about like, and I guess if we look at the service chain, we're talking about involving and motivating our staff members and our team members to really be a part and understand how they are helping achieve the goals of the organisation and they're involved in that
Yeah.
process. and obviously having them involved in that process, obviously, as you mentioned, really kind of increases that level of motivation. And I guess from that starting point, essentially, it's really, really important that the organisation has a strategy and a focus in terms of customer service, but also finance and, you know, in terms of other elements of the business as well. So if the company essentially doesn't have a strategy, which is very highly unlikely because most companies do have strategies, it also means that the strategies are, you know, the direction and the vision of an organisation, so where they kind of foresee themselves being, and they then set obviously organisational goals that really are the action steps to be able to help achieve and drive that strategy. Now the action steps, I guess, are where employees and team members come in. You know, you allocate or you make your team members a part of those organisational goals, and they can therefore see that outcome and they can see how they've contributed to the success of that business. An example, I'll try for an example. I mean,
Please.
you know, we many years ago we might have had an important customer service based strategy that essentially, you know, we would be, you know, Sydney's best hotel delivering outstanding customer service, say for example. Now that could have been a strategy for us moving forward to, you know, kind of, you know, really target and expand our customer service and improve our customer service. But as a hotel, we can't do that without our team members. So what we did was we operationalized that goal by setting very measurable tasks, very measurable goals down the organisation. So maybe allocating certain targets around customer service that we wanted to be able to achieve. And say, for example, we might have set ourselves a goal of achieving, you know, 95% customer service satisfaction. What we did was we then trickled that down the organisation to each department, and then we trickled that down to each individual. So each individual had a KPI or an organisation or a goal around achieving a certain level of customer service. So, you know, whether they were, you know, engaging in taking an order from a guest or checking a guest in, you know, each individual was measured and knew that they had a goal that they had to achieve whenever they interacted with a guest, and all of those put together helped achieve the strategy that we had and the organisational goals.
Absolutely.
That's trying to, yeah. I mean, I don't know if that was too complicated, but that's kind of, yeah.
Yeah, look, put simply, when we're talking about organizational goals here, we mean the strategic goals, so just the general vision. So we want to be the largest company in our sector. We want to, you know, these overarching statements that don't say much. What you're talking about is operationalizing those strategic goals, so having an operational plan, which is on an individual level, breaking down the action steps, the day-to-day actions. I think you were talking about action steps of what we need to do, and by setting these targets, the individuals know what, you know, they will know if they've achieved, which is good because we want people to feel good about themselves. So that actually rolls on beautifully to this next question too. So how do we actually measure that? So I think a KPI is probably the most obvious ways to measure different things, generally speaking, in business. But let's just talk about this question specifically, and then maybe we can talk a little bit about KPIs. So give 2 examples of how sales and service can be measured. So look, sales, the amount of sales, generally that's sales targets and profit margins. That's sort of the obvious one. You know, you can determine, you can run reports, you can, you know, calculate the dollars and cents, or you can calculate the amount of units that were sold. So there's some obvious ones like that that you can just, you know, targets, basically sales targets, profit targets, easy enough to sort of to do. So that's kind of the obvious one. That's easy. What about service though? It's a lot harder to measure service than it is sales. Sales, we can just print a report usually. We can just check and see how many of the items are off the shelf now. That's another way of doing it. So there's a number of ways there. But what about service? So, is there any ideas on how we can measure service?
Now, I mean, I guess in terms of measuring service, are we talking about like Well, I was thinking, and I don't obviously want to go into this because obviously next week we start talking about, the systems in place to be able to actually measure service levels and actually
Mm,
measure service
mm,
productivity. I mean, that's obviously something that students might like to explore, on the surface with something like this, because a lot of organisations will actually have software and where they actually measure, the time it takes for,
beautiful,
a person to answer a phone,
beautiful,
the time it takes for, a person to action a particular request made by a customer,
perfect.
and all of those really give you a real good indication of what we call productivity, and that's also that productivity therefore can be linked, from to a financial perspective, and that can really measure that service. If we say, you must answer the phone call within 3 rings, we've got a piece of software that can determine, do we offer that service at that standard, you know? So that could be another example. Obviously, we're going to talk a little bit more about those pieces of technology next week, but it could be something that students might like to explore.
Absolutely. I mean, the amount of time it takes to resolve a customer complaint is a service
Exactly right.
quality item as well. So service can relate to customer satisfaction, which is one thing, but it also, as you're saying then, the length of time it takes to resolve a query on the phone. Um,
Mm.
all of those all of those sorts of things. The uh, I guess number of issues that you might have over a course of a week. You can
Yep.
compare that week to week. Are we improving the amount of complaints we're getting, or are we going backwards? Um,
Mm.
so there are some of those sort of KPIs that you can check to manage your service quality. Um, you've got things
Well,
like,
could I just,
yeah,
I'll give you an example. I mean,
please,
and this is used something like our portal here as well. So our portal here, every week I get a little report every Saturday morning at 10 o'clock in the morning,
yep,
and that measures that for me is also a measurement of the service that we offer. Okay, so say for example, if I have missed by accident, obviously, an assessment that might have popped into the portal, that's almost a reminder to me that perhaps, that really for me measures my service capabilities to my students. Okay, I've missed out this one. Oh my gosh, that's bad service. But it is measuring how quickly it'll tell me when the assessment was submitted, how long it's been being actually
yeah.
in the portal. So for me, that's also a measurement of service.
But our organisation, we can measure service by speaking to our students at the end of the year, saying, "Hey, did you
Yep.
enjoy the course? What did you enjoy about it?" So we can do, feedback surveys, which will get their level of satisfaction. But what you're talking about is measuring some of the service elements. So how long did it take for the
Mm,
assessment when it was reached to be marked? And if we look at it over 100 assessments, and then we look at the same 100 assessments from last year, are we getting better? If we're getting better, it just gives us an indication that the things that we are doing are right. If we're
yep.
getting worse, and that's why KPIs are used all over business, because they just shine a light on where there might be issues, and they shine a light on also what's doing really well. So, to some of those ideas that you're talking about are fantastic service quality KPIs, which
Mm,
are perfect for this question. Um,
mm,
think about your own business. How do you actually measure sales? How do you measure service in your own business? Um,
mm.
absolute, yeah.
Yeah, and just kind of that extension as well, which I think we'll talk about next week, is really the power of that information is incredibly valuable. And a lot of organisations have a lot of access to information about their customers
Hmm.
through these softwares and through these systems that they actually don't utilise as effectively as they can. And it's interesting, I went to a talk a couple of months ago with a big CEO that runs a very, very large club area in Sydney, and he was talking about they are now currently doing what's called data mining. So for a long, long, long time, they had so much information about their customers, but they never actually used that information effectively. And what they're realising now is they've got so much data on the customer that they can essentially really begin to formulate, okay, well, this is what the average spend is. These are the areas that the customer likes to frequent. So therefore, they're starting to run promotions and really using that information to drive and create that revenue,
Hmm.
which I think is very interesting. Yep.
You see it happening in with like your Google accounts, if you go on YouTube or you go on other things like that, you start to notice that the advertising seems to be a little bit more related to the materials
Yeah.
that you've touched. So there's a lot of that sort of stuff going on. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, with
It's
that,
very, very true.
look, it's important to know your customer. It's important to know the journey they go on. It's important to understand the reasons they're purchasing your product, what benefits they get out of your product, what perceived benefits they get from your product as well.
That's
Um,
it. You
yeah,
know, the other day I do this thing on Saturdays called Park Run, and so what they do, so Park Run, you just a group of people get together and they run in a park, okay? But they have professional photographers in the park, but we don't actually have numbers. So what I've done is I've run this race on Saturday. There's been a professional photographer there. They've taken my photo. There's no element, right, of me. There's no number on me that can identify who I am, okay? There is just me running. So what happens is as soon as I go home and I log on to Facebook and I log on to the Facebook page, and what they've done is, this is how remarkable Facebook is Facebook have recognized my photo
oh no,
in the photos that's been uploaded
no,
into their Facebook, and the first photo that I see is a photo of me on that particular Facebook page. So without having to wade through 500 photos, Facebook has recognized my photo and moved my photo up to be the very first photo.
unbelievable.
How is, how is that? I know. I was just like, oh my God.
That's a bit scary, but it's
It,
good. It's good.
it is. Yeah, but it's
Clever.
what it is it takes it away from me having to wade through 400 photos of
Right.
myself going, you know what I mean? So it's just a little example of the service that they're kind of delivering. I don't have to spend half an hour going through all these photos. They've digitally recognized my face from other photos on my Facebook page. It's
Again,
crazy.
see, that's what makes Facebook really good. They understand their customers, they understand why they're using that product, and they understand the benefit that they're seeking from it and their
Mm.
experience. And your experience is such where you go, I don't want to wade through 500 photos of randoms. I just want to see the 3 photos that I'm involved in and move on. And
That's exactly right.
they've identified that. And look, you know what? That's actually all making your experience a much more enjoyable one when you're interacting with their product. And
Mm.
that's really about understanding your own product and understanding how to deliver the service that matches what the customer needs and wants are, which is what we sort of spoke
Definitely.
a lot about in that first one. So
Mm.
yeah, I'm happy for students to be really creative
Yeah.
with this last one. Give us a couple of ways that you can measure service, how to measure sales. Feel free to give us some examples of questions. So if you say you can ask some questions, don't just say you can ask some questions. You can, but give us an example of what question you can ask. A great question you can always ask a customer is, how likely would you be to recommend our company or service to a friend? Because
Mm.
it gives a great representation of how happy your customers are if it suggests that if somebody's willing to put their own reputation on the line to recommend you, they are very, very satisfied with what you have to offer. So the likelihood to recommend someone to a friend actually provides a lot of information on your organization. They might be happy, yeah, that was fine. Would you recommend this? Probably not. So maybe we could do a little bit better, is what I would sort of read out of that. So in any case, thanks for joining today, Alyssa. Is there anything else you'd like to add to that set there? Uh,
No, it's been a good chat. Good chat.
Next week, we will close this down by looking at negotiating the supply of goods and provide a productive work environment as well. We'll be talking about things like service level agreements, um, customer relationship management systems, some other things as well. So building rapport with customers. So check us out for the next session. We look forward to seeing you there. That'll be the last resource support session. Thanks for joining us in today's session, everybody, and look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye.